From more severe weather over the next few days to a couple tropical storms or hurricanes likely to form the eastern Pacific Ocean through this weekend, this is your Chonkita weather forecast. First of all, looking at the current Day 1 SPC severe weather outlook, you can see for today we currently have a slight risk of severe weather from central North Dakota into western South Dakota into eastern Wyoming and the Nebraska Panhandle. The marginal risk extends into extreme western Texas. We have another marginal risk across eastern Texas and another marginal risk across portions of the southeastern United States. For our tornado risk today, you can see we currently have a 5% tornado risk across northwestern South Dakota into southwestern North Dakota, and our 2% tornado risk extends from central Colorado all the way into central North Dakota. We have no Sig 1 area yet today, although we can still see a couple to a few tornadoes later this afternoon. For damaging wind risk, you can see you have a 15% damaging wind risk from central North Dakota into the Nebraska Panhandle. The marginal risk for 5% risk extends down into eastern New Mexico. We also have a 5% risk across portions of eastern Texas and another one across portions of the southeastern United States. And for a hail risk for today, we do have a 15% hail risk from central North Dakota into eastern Wyoming and the Nebraska Panhandle, and we do have a Sig 1 area mainly across central and western North Dakota into western South Dakota into eastern Wyoming and the Nebraska Panhandle for today, where you can see some hail from the size of ping pong balls to baseballs later this afternoon. And our 5% risk extends all the way down to eastern New Mexico and extreme western Texas. Next, look at our Day 2 SPC severe weather outlook. You can see for tomorrow we currently have a slight risk of severe weather across eastern South Dakota, southeastern North Dakota into west central Minnesota. Our tornado risk for today, we have a 2% tornado risk across northeastern South Dakota and southeastern North Dakota, where you can see a tornado or two tomorrow, mainly around the Aberdeen area of South Dakota. We also have a damaging wind risk for tomorrow. We have a 15% risk across eastern South Dakota into west central Minnesota. Our 5% risk extends from northwestern Minnesota and central and eastern North Dakota down into the Texas Panhandle and the Oklahoma Panhandle. And we have another 5% risk across western Texas. In those areas, we could see some damaging wind gusts, potentially reaching up to 65 miles an hour in some isolated spots. And for hail risk tomorrow, it's generally the same as the wind risk, except it doesn't go as far east, and we do have a Sig 1 area from central Nebraska all the way into southeastern North Dakota. So if you're in those areas there, make sure you prepare for some significant severe weather tomorrow, especially with the hail threat. Now, looking at Day 3 SPC severe weather outlook, you can see for Thursday, we currently have a large slight risk of severe weather from southeastern Montana, northeastern Wyoming into northern Nebraska, and much of South Dakota. Our marginal risk extends from central Montana into much of Nebraska, all the way into the western Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And for our probabilistic outlook, you can see we do have a Sig 1 area across northwestern Nebraska, extreme northeastern Wyoming, and western South Dakota, where you can see some significant severe weather. If we go down to the discussion, we are mainly talking about some large hail and damaging winds. If we continue to go down, damaging winds, large hail, we're not really talking about a tornado threat right now, which is good, but there could still be a low-end tornado threat, like a 2% or 5% tornado risk, so make sure you pay attention to future weather forecasts on my channel. Next, we're going to Day 1 excessive rainfall outlook from the Weather Prediction Center for today. you can see we currently have two main areas to watch. We have a slight risk of excessive rainfall across eastern New Mexico and western Texas, and we have another one from northeastern into south-central North Dakota into north-central South Dakota, where in those areas you can see some scattered flash flooding. In some isolated spots, it could become somewhat significant, so make sure you have multiple ways to receive flash flood warnings if you're in those areas. We also have a marginal risk of flash flooding for much of North Dakota into more of western Texas and much of New Mexico. And we have another area to watch for a marginal risk of flash flooding, mainly from eastern Texas into southern Georgia and eastern Florida. Doesn't look like those areas will see a significant and widespread of flooding, but still make sure you have multiple ways to receive flash flood warnings if you're in those areas. Next, look at our Day 2 excessive rainfall outlook. You can see we currently have a slight risk of flash flooding across eastern New Mexico and western Texas, where again we can see some significant flash flooding in some isolated spots. So again, you make sure to have multiple ways to receive flash flood warnings for tomorrow. And our marginal risk of flash flooding extends from southeastern Arizona all the way into much of Minnesota and the eastern parts of the Dakotas for tomorrow, although it doesn't look like it will be very significant in those areas. Next, looking at the Day 3 excessive rainfall outlook, you can see we currently have a marginal risk of flash flooding all the way from much of Texas and southern New Mexico, all the way up into much of South Dakota, into western Wisconsin there. So if you're in those areas, make sure to have multiple ways to receive weather alerts. You will likely see a slight risk out in future outlooks, so make sure you pay attention to official forecasts and to weather forecasts on my channel for more updates. Next, we do have some updates on our tropical systems in the Eastern Pacific Ocean. You can see we have this one to watch here. It has now a 80% chance of development in 48 hours and a 90% chance of development in 7 days. We're seeing satellite images are indicating that the area of low pressure is beginning to show signs of organization and that the environment appears conducive for additional development, and a tropical depression or tropical storm is likely and expected to form in the next couple of days as the system moves westward or northwestward around 10 miles an hour across the western portion of the Eastern Pacific. And this could become a pretty significant tropical storm or hurricane. It likely will not impact land, but again, I will have more updates on the system of future in case anything changes, like if it heads farther north or it shifts towards Hawaii or something. I will make future updates of that as well. For this system over here in the Eastern Pacific Ocean, you can see it has a 40% chance of development through 7 days. They're saying an area of low pressure will likely form offshore of Central America and southern Mexico late this week into the weekend, and the environment appears favorable for some development of the system after it forms, and a tropical depression could form by early next week while it moves generally northwestward around 10 miles an hour. So again, the probabilities will continue to go up as the system gets closer and closer to forming. So make sure you pay attention to the National Hurricane Center for more updates if you're in Mexico and parts of Central America. And also make sure to watch the weather forecast on my channel for more updates. Next, look at the mellow intensity guidance from Tropical Tidbits for Invest 90E, which is the 90% chance of development system in the Eastern Pacific Ocean. You can see within the next 24 to 36 hours, a lot of the weather models have it becoming a tropical storm strength system, and some even have it becoming a high-end tropical storm to a low-end hurricane within the next 3 to 4 days, and eventually over the next 4 to 5 to 6 days, they have a weakening slightly and staying around tropical storm strength, which I guess this is probably pretty realistic. I'm not going to really show any of the actual weather models like the model runs yet, because the system hasn't actually formed. Once we get a tropical depression or tropical storm, we'll start to show those, but this is a general idea of what the intensity could be, and you can see if it rapidly intensified. You could see it would likely be by the next 24 hours in the mid-range tropical storm range, which is highly unlikely in my opinion. Next, looking at the Google AI weather model for what could show up the system. This model can be surprisingly accurate sometimes. It is run by AI, obviously. It looks back at historical storms and finds patterns and recognition that humans may not observe. But again, this isn't 100% accurate, so make sure you still pay attention to official forecasts. But you can see over the next few days, it has it becoming a tropical storm with some of the ensembles in here, and some of them even have it becoming a hurricane eventually. You can see eventually they all settle in this general area. Some move west, some still out over this area, but generally it will likely become a tropical storm or a low-end hurricane within the next few days here, so make sure you pay attention to official forecasts for more information. Anyways, that is the end of today's weather forecast. If you're in the impacted areas for severe weather or flash flooding over the next few days, make sure to pay attention to official forecasts from the Storm Prediction Center and the Weather Prediction Center, and also continue to watch my weather forecast for more updates, and I will see you on the next weather forecast tomorrow. Goodbye!